Do you like pouring this?
Excuse me, do you like ale and craft beer?
Yes.
Do you like card games? Would you like card games about ale and craft beer?
Sounds good.
Okay, why don't you have a try of this? Craft Beer Brewer is a card game in which players compete to brew the highest scoring beer. Players will learn basic and specialist brewing techniques, understand top and bottom fermenting yeast, base and specialty malts, which hops are chosen for bittering or aroma, and the problems that can occur during brewing. Players will be able to name and describe their beer in terms of strength, taste, and ingredient geography. There is a massive scope for variation when creating beers. First, all players are dealt a yeast card. This is the beer style they are trying to make. The yeast card tells the player which colour malts are applicable to that style. This could be pale, golden, amber, brown or black. The yeast card also tells players which type of hop is required, either bittering or aroma, with dual purpose being universal. Players are now dealt 5 random ingredient cards from the main deck. They will have 4 turns to discard and redraw ingredient cards to make the highest scoring beer possible. In the ingredients deck, you will find a variety of malts, hops, flavour and brewing cards. All cards are rated with a value of between 10 and 30 points. As a player, you will look for both high point cards and those that combine best to make a delicious and memorable brew. You may also come across the dreaded ale fail cards. These indicate a problem with your beer and give an end game penalty. The first step is to discard the cards that don't fit with your yeast. With this pale ale, the player will discard an irrelevant brewing card, bittering hop and black malt. They are left with a dual purpose hop and a golden malt. Enough in this case to make beer. To make beer, you really only need 3 cards. Your yeast card with 1 compatible malt and 1 compatible hop. So this is a scoring hand with 50 points, but the player still has 4 turns to improve the beer's complexity using flavour cards, brewing cards, or by making it stronger. Players should aim to have all 5 ingredient cards compatible and high scoring. Here are a few possibilities specifically for the pale ale. By holding the Style Adjuncts brewing card and the Red Fruits flavour card, the player chooses lactose and raspberry to add, making a raspberry milkshake pale ale. Many cards have multiple options, so players can be creative, tailoring beers to a chosen flavour profile. In this case, the player has created a sharp and spicy ginger and yuzu rye pale ale. Brewing cards can create beer with particular properties beyond simple flavour additions, such as this gluten-free, low-alcohol pale, which sounds delicious. Or this pale, which adds double dry hopping and calcium sulfate water treatment to give it an extremely crisp and hop-forward finish. Strong beers are made by balancing 2 compatible malts with 2 compatible hops. Here we have a strong grapefruit IPA called Cliff Richard Juice. Players can even make a very strong or imperial beer by balancing 3 malts with 3 hops. Now, a standard hand only has 5 cards in it, but this is where the community cards come in. A new community card is drawn at the start of each turn. Players can add the information from only one of these 4 cards at the end of the game, so they can potentially have a beer made from 6 ingredients instead of 5. At the end of 4 turns, each player should have their yeast card plus 5 ingredient cards, some or all of which will be compatible, and maybe they may have some ale field cards. A scoring beer will be made out of the yeast plus at least 1 relevant malt and 1 relevant hop, but hopefully using all 5 ingredient cards and a community card for maximum points. Let's look at the layout at the end of a 2-player game. From the top left we can see the ingredient deck, the 4 community cards and the pile of discarded ingredient cards. Player 1's hand is in the middle and player 2 is at the bottom. At the end of a game, players describe and name their beers and announce their point total. Player 1 was dealt a stout yeast. They have made a strong chocolate stout by doubling up on the bittering hop cards and using the Kiln Coffee Dark Malt community card as their second malt. The brewing card they ended up with is for pale beers, so cannot be used with this hand. The player has named this beer Mocha Madness, and it is worth 120 points, including the 10-point ale fail penalty. Player 2 is brewing a wheat beer, so they needed to find a wheat base malt card. They have chosen Mango and Peach from the 2 flavour cards. The brewing card includes acidulated malt as an option, which converts the wheat beer into a particular sour style. Player 2 could not find a community card to fit their beer, so they finish with a Pichango Berliner Weiss, which is worth 130 points. So it's a close win for player 2, well done. And under pub drinking rules, player 1 would now buy player 2 a Berliner Weiss or similar before starting the next game. Cheers. There is a massive scope for variation when creating beers. The 7 yeast cards represent Belgian ales, pilsners, stouts, English ales, saison, pale ales and wheat beers. These allow 13 beer styles based on different malt roast colours. There are 5 different alcohol strengths available and a host of flavour and brewing options, giving well over 500 hand combinations, but that's without including individual choices in the hops and malts that are used, making the actual variations well in the thousands. The following beers were made during game testing.